Let's go into this art journal. And it's also fun because, I was writing about where I was going. Really, an art journal is like your best friend, and it's always there. And a super great listener. Challenge was Black Lagoons. So, and then this was one of my most recent ones. You can see the still life. This is one of my favorite churches. I had a couple challenges. There was Raven, and there was Witch. I don't think it was cat, but it should have been. And also, as I'm doing this, you'll notice that I'm just writing like crazy, and I'm getting these story ideas. Want to do an art journal? I was just thinking about that on one of the previous videos where I was featuring my own art journal, and on that one, I just went into a page. That's what I wanted to set out to do, and mainly talk about cats, and because they need to be talked about on this, because I love them and I love painting them, I love drawing them, and I've made quite a few, and I wanted to just share a little time lapse of a certain little painting in this lovely, beautiful art journal of mine. Inadvertently, I started being like, you know what, I'm really staying on this one thing, and I'm talking about art journals and how much they mean to me, and how come I'm not really going into that on this video? So I was thinking about it. Let's go into it on this video. They're fantastic. It is, I think, a way to maintain some sanity in this ever-changing world in which we live in. They are accomplishments for yourself, and they're very fulfilling if you really apply yourself to it, to the business of learning. They're very meditative as well. So let's go into this art journal. And I'm excited to share this because I've had it for a little while now, and I'll go into the process of it. This was kind of a tricky one for me to get into. It was not as readily accessible in some ways because of the way the textures of the pages are and the types of tools that I was using. But once I started to get the hang of it, oh man, it's just become one of the best that I've had. I'm not finished with it. I think I'm like about halfway through. Pretty exciting. So who knows? Maybe a while from now there will be a part 2 of this video. We'll see. Anyways, I'm excited to share this with you. And yeah, come on, let's go. Here we go. This is the amazing art journal, and it's come in a few times to some of the videos before, but this is kind of special because it's definitely gotten some miles on it, and this is from Nomadic Journals, and it's become a real prized possession. I even love the cover. It's just like a piece of leather, but it's done so tastefully. It's not this crazy hard cover, because wherever I'm taking it, that would have just made it more cumbersome. But because it's this way and it's this leather, it is very well protected. Just yeah, it's just fantastic. It came with this strap that's tied in a knot here, and then I added this part because I wanted to put something extra on the strap, and I had this piece, and I am born in the year of the serpent, and so that just seemed kind of apt. I think actually we're in the year of the serpent now, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, let's go into it. So you saw this mermaid, and every year, for those of you who don't know, in May, I take part in Mermay. I don't really enjoy a lot of the challenges that they do. I think they're a little more kiddie or girly or something. I kind of like the kind of dark, romantic mermaids. Sometimes with a really dark twist, but certainly more verging on the romantic, maybe with an adult sensibility to them. But I definitely like, with Ghost in the Gaslight, you've heard me say it before, light is a big deal to me, and just about everything I do, I want to play with light. I basically had this new art journal, and I couldn't wait to try it out. I began with this one. My concept was that she's kind of like dancing with those sunbeams. I'd done a mermaid a while back where she was in the water. It was just a little sketch, maybe this big. And I think one of the great things with gouache is this paint right here, as I was putting it on, because gouache rehydrates when you put water on it. So the mermaid who's underneath this layer of the whiter paint, the golden white vanilla color that I put here, that started to run together a little. So it had this nice hazy effect, but also a watery effect. And I love working with different types of water-based paints with mermaid. But I think gouache is wonderful because you can get the opacity of acrylic, but you also can play with watery effects. You can go back and it isn't dry, isn't so dry you can't do anything. So that was page one. This was, I went to a cemetery in, I think it was Forest Lawn in Glendale in Los Angeles. I was there at the time. And there's this beautiful tree, and I wanted to play around with using inks for a sketchbook and then adding paint to it and seeing what happens. And I think you really got these two different values, which speaks to both of the strengths of the mediums. And this is another thing, I encourage you to be a multidisciplinary artist in your art journal. You don't have to do it outside, but it is so much fun to play. I mean, look at the styles I got in the sky, and then they make the shadows in this tree just pop. So that certainly has started to percolate into my actual pieces and paintings that aren't in the art journal. And then, of course, for studies, hands. I had great advice from my brother and other people that hands are very important. I mean, there's so much that you can do, you can go into when you're sketching a hand. You can pick different parts of it. Of course, you want to focus mostly on the anatomy because hands almost never look right. Even hands in real life just look kind of strange. And I think that if you really work on them, they start to look correct. And but you got to keep doing it and really give the same time you give to a hand as you would to another sketch. So again, this is with the off-white paper. And one of the great things with an art journal that is that way is you've got your thoughts on here. That's another thing I like to do. I like to just sometimes just write. Then I'll do a picture. In this case, I was doing reference. So I just felt free anyway. It's great. And here we've got more of this here. And I get to play with composition a little. You know, I can use the words as, communicating a feeling on the page, something I like to do. I've always liked to do that. And working with pencil, in this case, with all these hands, I would do an initial sketch. I don't know if you can see this, but I think it's good to show. That was regular graphite pencil. And then I went with color pencil. I went with black because I really wanted to get the values like darker so that the lights will pop. Of course, with this, the negative space is not about being the lightest part on the hand. This is where you get to sculpt light. And that's why you use the off-white, so that you're not just using negative space, you're actually kind of carving out, sculpting the light with the white pencil. And I got to work with kind of muscle groups here, which was pretty fun. And I would also sometimes, just to give you a little sense of generally where I'm going with the writing, as I'm doing this and meditating, your mind relaxes. Then it's kind of gratifying to go where it might take you and just write how you feel. And it just feels great when you've just done a page. Here's another one. More of what I did before, except I added black ink washes around it. Even used the wash for the smoke from this little cigarette or joint, whatever that is. And yeah, It's really fun. And this was a silent film actress. Her name escapes me, but I love this piece. Absolutely love this piece. Didn't quite get her likeness, I think. But that's another fun thing about the art journal. I'm not sure. She almost kind of reminds me of like Kim Cattrall in some way or something from Mannequin. But I just absolutely love how this turned out. Especially just love the way the lace is. And again, the highlights are sculpted on there. That's what I'm most proud of. I didn't just use the accidents there. The middle part became where the accidents happened, which is just really beautiful. There was some kind of little breakthrough in this one. And then, yeah, not sure. Sometimes there's these, oh, that's why. There's these blank pages, and found this picture of an old couple's hands. I assume they're a couple, the way they're holding their hands. I mean, it's just really beautiful. Okay, this one is bound in, so I have to bring it up there. But with this one, you can see the highlights were a little more minimal. I really went in the kind of middle ground. That makes up most of this, which was really exciting. I was really getting into the shadows and everything, and I thought I was losing it because this was a new style, and I didn't have this faith of what the highlights were going to do. And then they kind of popped there, which was very gratifying. Getting into kind of landscapes and playing with more simpler gouaches and watercolors. I love lighthouses. I don't do enough of those. I need to do more. This is back when I had my old signature, I guess. And oh yeah, and then I got into these angels, sad angels that are in cemeteries. I just love them. I can't get enough of them. When I find one, I have to just look at it and contemplate. I've never been a fan of going into museums and hanging out in there. I just get a little, I think sometimes the art tends to get me very, how do I say it? Ooh, I love this one. It gets me restless and passionate, and then I just feel like I'm stuck in a museum. But if I'm in one of these cemeteries with one of these beauties, or seeing a picture of them, who knows, it's rapturous to me. And this is of, I have like a few weeping angels. I don't know if they're in this book. Some things go out, or I sell originals and what have you. But, some of these I do try to keep, and I try to keep them in here as much as I can until, maybe I offer it up and someone wants to buy it. But this is one of my absolute favorites. And I feel like a lot of what you saw with the hands and the sculpting, the highlight, adding it on there, really had a payoff in this one. I remember just feeling so confident in this. I knew where it was going to go. And I really encourage all the little projects you can embark on in an art journal, whether it's collage, whether it's working with color pencil or charcoal or ink, gouache, acrylic, what have you. It's so gratifying where you can go in like 5 pages, no matter what level you're on. If you get to a page that you're frustrated on, then stick with it. It might be the next page you soar. And that's a great feeling. This one was part of a project that I'll probably feature in another video of the 9 muses. I don't have them in here. I had taken them out and made these beautiful prints and other things for them. So this is Melpomene. She's one of the 9 Greek muses. She's the muse of tragedy. You can see she's got the mask, which I fashioned after a very ancient mask. I think one of the oldest Greek masks. And then she's got tears. She's got a dagger. So muse of tragedy. This turned into about 9 different pieces because I did the 9 muses. And I actually did 3 of Melpomene before I settled on one that I liked. But I'll go into that on another video because I don't have those here. This was Polyhymnia, who was another muse, the muse of sacred poetry, which I really liked. But again, once the pieces started to take shape, I knew the overall look and theme I wanted them to all have, and this wasn't quite fitting, though I love this piece. And this was another of Melpomene, the muse of tragedy. You can see she's got the mask and the tears. I love this one, but it just looked underdone. It didn't look ready. And I didn't feel like there was a way that I could make it look ready, so it stays in here. But, you know, on another video, we'll go into the muses. Oh, this is another of my weeping angels. I was cat-sitting once for a friend, and I saw this little weeping angel and just had to snap a picture and paint it. And just thought it was really touching. It was fun. Art journal stuff. Oh, you know, some of these pages get so blank because I'll be working on a sketch and then I erase it, and you'll get this kind of light thing, which is really cool. I've learned to wield it, but some of these, the erasing gets so tearing the paper apart, and so I just leave it. I might come back and paint something on it. This was a self-portrait I did in October of 2022, I think. Yeah, that actually makes that tree that I showed you in the beginning, I believe, in October or so, or November of 21, I think. This was a self-portrait that was done with ink sketching. You can actually see there is red ink there. And then I used white ink for the highlights. Of course, I did washes first of black ink. It's really nice black washes that I layered and layered on here. And then I went in over it with the highlights and the other like nuanced red shadows. Kind of a nice little surprising self-portrait exercise because it was all with pen. I was kind of amazed that it worked out that way. And then this is the king. He's in Celtic folklore. It's been a long time since I've been looking at these, but he's kind of like this really almighty god. I think he's got a correlation with Odin when you go to the Norse mythology, but he also appears in Norse mythology, I think, but he essentially protects the Celtic islands with his great cape of fog. You know, it was fun making a little deep dive with him back then, and I've done that with so much folklore. I can't quite recall his. I think it's like Mana. I don't want to say Mannahatta, but anyways, you know, I got to really. This one I kind of reversed a lot of what I do with black ink. I started drawing with the white ink, which was really fun, and then I did white washes because I wanted to work with fog. So it was a great exercises. This myth was particularly good for me because I got to do the reverse of what I do. Learning folklore or myth will just inspire you to go somewhere else. And this one is the fairy cow, I believe. You can see these fairies and this cow. This is in Irish folklore as well, where if you find a fairy cow and you can basically be blessed with unlimited milk. Don't go looking for them because I don't quite remember the parameters where you can anger the fairy folk. So, you know, don't go looking for it. Yeah, it was fun to just kind of a little thing where I was playing with light and shadow. Again, fun with the art journal. And then I was working on a witch for a certain October challenge. And I didn't get too far with it because of where my life was at. I think this was as far as I got there. And then some weeks later, Loretta Lynn passed away, and I really love her music. And I was compelled to really try doing another portrait in here. I love that look on her face. It reminds me of Loretta Lynn, though she does kind of look like June Carter Cash too in here. But sometimes I get them confused when I see a photo. But yeah, miss you, Loretta. Always have your music. And then this was the beginning of a grand project, probably my favorite project to date, The Highwayman. And he rides on a black horse, and it's a beautiful tale. And I wanted to, you know, start working with reference and getting into the world of a highwayman and, you know, horses and things like that. So this was kind of the big preparation because I wanted to work with only 3 colors when I do the main painting. And you will see the highwayman as God is my witness. It is almost done. But I wanted to work with black, white, and red. and just get a feel for that. This is nothing like the composition or the painting that I was doing. I'd say this is kind of like the moment before the painting, because he's riding to see his lady love, who is in that room there with the light on, And it's a beautiful poem, The Highwayman. You can look it up and check it out. It's wonderful. And then I wrote, just to kind of get in the spirit of the language, because it is beautiful language, that rhyming poem of The Highwayman. And I just kind of wrote a little backstory, I guess. It's very small, though. And then this was, this is a moment in the painting that I'm doing. She lets her hair down from the window. Her hair is so long that it makes up for the fact that they can't meet, they can't touch. So he's feeling her hair. And this was meant to be kind of a close-up of this moment that was probably going to be this big in the painting, comparatively. But I forgot this was in here. It turned out to be a little different, but again, it was great to work this out. It was cool. This is a sycamore tree with a little cat. This turned into some really great merch. A wonderful pillow, made an Oliver t-shirt, and a great print. And they've all sold pretty well. And it all started because I loved this one sycamore tree and I sketched it. And then when I was sketching, I just added this cat. This guy he was like, put me in there. Meow, meow. I actually made a video with this one in an earlier version of the Solmanac vlog. You do some of these things and you think they're going to be nothing, and then they mean a lot. And this, I was working with a still life. Absolutely love this, especially the reflection of the pumpkins in that glass candle. And working with the rose, and this became a beautiful print. I called it Gourds, Love, and Light. So you got the gourds, you got the rose for love, and the candle for light. And I personally think it's a stunning print as well. But that's, Gourds, Love, and Light. I wanted to do a still life, and again, just like with the hands, there's no limit to how deep you can go into a still life. And if you do it right, you start to realize you're telling a certain story in a way. They all kind of do that, which is really, really neat. And that story has to do with the depth, the background, the colors you choose, the light you make, this kind of mood you're doing. And it's a story beyond words, but you really feel like you made something, you created something that is, I don't know, could be fulfilling to someone's eyes, and it's a beautiful thing. Again, art journal. Some things are, just they're just meant to get to the next thing, but they fulfill a use. Others suddenly become a full-on finished piece. You never know. It's an adventure. Here's another one. I saw these streets, and they reminded me of some of my travels in the world. Street corners in Italy at night, or Israel, or India. And I just loved the light in here. I wanted to kind of get the light as it hits the cobblestone streets, and in this humid place where the light is reflected almost in a sweating building, and with the paint, and just takes me somewhere in my dreams, or your dreams, who knows. But I just want to vanish down there. I can hear the footsteps in the hall. Oh, and this one, this actually grew out of first stories I did on my Substack, and I'm really proud of it. The story as well. The story actually swelled into two. I was working on a painting of Frankenstein finding happiness after all, the monster Frankenstein finding happiness in the arms of a mermaid. But the story got a bit longer, and I realized I needed to do it in 2 posts. For the second post, I was going to need to make another piece. And I did this, I think it took me like maybe 2.5 hours. I was stunned with how quickly I could make it. But the other piece took me like 3.5 weeks. And if you want to see them together, check out my Substack. The story is Mermaids and Monsters. And it's great. The first piece is more green and dark and black, yellow themes, and then this one was warm orange and of course blue cold themes. But yeah, absolutely proud of this story. One of my favorite stories I've ever written. You should check it out. And of course, this was featured in that video about cats. It was a beauty for this challenge I was doing of Catter Day. Here's another one. Just absolutely, I adore black cats. And they're just, cats are very mystical, but black cats have a special place in my heart. They've been in huge parts of my life. Just love them. And this was done with gouache. And it was so much fun to really work on the different colors, the way that the light plays on the black fur. That's another thing that I love about painting black cats. When they're in black and white, it's a lot of fun. And when it's in color, it really uses your imagination. How do you highlight the fur on a black cat? Something. And then this was a friend's cat. And I was traveling. I went and hung out with him, and he had gotten these two cats, and they were just these two beautiful orange tabbies. And this guy was practically posing for me. He was such a good boy, and I just had to just really go in with this all this pattern. And it's also fun because, I was writing about where I was going. I mean, really, an art journal is like your best friend, and it's always there. And a super great listener. And then this was, I was carving watermelons for a jack-o'-lantern type of thing, a mellow lantern, as I called it. And I was transfixed by the outside of the shell, and I just feel like we don't give enough love to these objects for the shell. We always look at the inside, this beautiful gleaming treasure on the inside. And I wanted to really give some love to the watermelon as it is in the nursery before it gets picked, and just love this. Again, I love where the art journal takes me. This was a piece that I did for another Substack, which was all about Mary Shelley learning to read. Her father, who was a great philosopher and anarchist, used to bring her to the cemetery to her mother's tombstone, and that's where he taught her how to read, which is pretty wild. And I'm very proud of the simplicity with this one and how I just got the values of light and mood here. I love this one. This is definitely a favorite. And then let's see. Dame Maggie Smith passed away. I had to immortalize her, and I had a Catter Day to do, and this was perfect. So I had her as Professor McGonagall, and the that type of cat that she is. I don't remember what it is. It's I go through these, and I'm sorry, my artist mind can't retain everything. Well, this is my newer signature on here. This is one of the first ones. There's an S and an S and an L. If you can see that. But this is pretty recent. We're in 2024 now. And then this is the beginning of the Halloween challenge that I did. This was a shapeshifter. That was the challenge. So I did an owl that it kind of is, turning into an owl. Kind of a nod to Labyrinth, the movie Labyrinth, because David Bowie's character, Jareth, is able to shapeshift and turn into an owl. So did that. And then this was a story that I did for Substack about a vampire, because the challenge was vampire, which was a lot of fun. And I did this one where there's almost a kinky relationship between her and the sun, how it seeks to burn her finger and she seeks to feel a little bit of that pain. And it was a really, really neat story. I love where it went. And, it all pretty much was coming out of how I was making her here and what it was bringing up in me. And there was something flirtatious happening and dangerous. So, yeah, you should check that out. And then this was getting a Pan, the fawn god. And, it was a little quick one. I was actually en route to officiate for a friend's wedding. So I didn't have a lot of time, but I love how this little piece happened. I get a sense of the forest, the light of the fire and everything. It's great. Ooh, the challenge was Siren. And I learned a lot. You know, a lot of people who did the challenge, they just did mermaids. And I was going to do a mermaid because I always do mermaids, but I want to look it up. And I learned that sirens are not that. Sirens have wings, and they will haunt you with their song. But yeah, it's not a fishtail, it's wings, which was so cool to learn. And so then I started getting into still lives. I had some feathers around, and I started doing these still lives on the writing, which was really fun. I think this piece especially was a bit of a breakthrough because I started really using the medium of art journaling as a medium in a way that you can't quite do with paintings because anything goes. So I can really work on this. I can put a still life in, and it's all kind of coming together there. So, and just really, really freewheeling and exciting to do. The lady from the Black Lagoon, and Millicent is her name, and she also designed the creature in Fantasia, the big devilish demon character in Night on Bald Mountain. But she did the creature from the Black Lagoon. Great book about her called Lady from the Black Lagoon. And she endured a lot of egos, mainly from men, of course, back then. And she never really got credit, but her legend lives on, and she's just amazing. Millicent. Great story. You should definitely check her out. But I love the movie. It's one of the best of the monster movies, technically. And yeah, I had to give her love. The challenge was Black Lagoon. So, and then this is one of my most recent ones. You can see the still life elements coming back, and this is one of my favorite churches. It's in Bodega Bay, California, near me where I grew up, and I wanted to do that. And I had a couple challenges. There was Raven, and there was Witch, and I think there was something else. I don't remember. But I don't think it was Cat, but it should have been. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I worked on this for a while to just kind of get the colors how I wanted, the contrast how I wanted, and then, of course, get the still lives in. And this became a wonderful little story on Substack as well, which you can totally read. So you might be seeing a theme where I'm using Substack to kind of develop these pieces. This was Grim Reaper, or Reaper, I think, something like that. And I was liking this, but then all of a sudden something got me, and I added daisies because there's a saying when you're dying, you're pushing up the daisies. Oh, he died. Oh, he's pushing up the daisies now, if you know what I mean. And so I added all these daisies, which are such a great death flower, and it just gave this thing a wondrous different quality. It was beautiful. Not much left to go here. This one was the yokai, which is a Japanese ghost, a malevolent spirit. And they're shapeshifters, and I like cats, and I thought it was another great excuse to do a cat. And later this turned into a very epic 3-part story. It might even be my longest story. And look at this. There's like a little still life here. There's all this writing, and then there's this this strange, spooky, creepy god here, or ghost. And then I did this one. The challenge was undead, and then I wanted to get, I think it was haunted forest or dark woods or something, and then it was like a full moon. So I did 3 challenges in one get, which was a great exercise. It turned into this, which I am, that story will come out. I'm working on that one, among others. But just love the lighting in here and the backlit of him, and just the teeth. You can barely see that he's a vampire there. Kind of precarious for her. And I just love the way the cloth falls on her figure there. It's really nice. And beautiful. Undead. And let's see. Ooh, this one is about to come out on my Substack. Actually, by the time you see this video, it probably will be out. But of course, this is a take on the Brothers Grimm tale. And of course, it was still like kind of during the full moon. The challenge was Grimm, so Brothers Grimm, and werewolf. So I basically was doing all those together, which was a lot of fun. And I absolutely just love this piece. There was a lot of things that just kind of came together. I didn't have to solve any problems that I created. The washes, the way the shading was layered on, the way all the backlit, just little touches, little nuances. And I really just let this one guide me. This is one of the great things when you do a challenge like this and you have to get deadlines going. You just get better and better in a slower amount of time. This is what I intend to be doing with my vlogging. So I'm vlogging constantly so that I get better. And it was some kind of like cat-like thing. So it wasn't just to be a cat. So I gave this one bat wings. So it's kind of like some kind of cat. I think it was cat creature, something fun like that. But this one was I remember this gravestone was really tough to do. This guy, he was a good boy. He was easy. And even I loved the way the moonlight's coming through the thin skin on the wings here. That's great. But this was really tough to do. But I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So it's always good to be specific when you're going into these things. This one was, let's see, Bones and Zodiac. So I'm a Scorpio, and I really wanted to work on a still life or a reference. I mean, and I love that, because I was doing this, and he was, just kind of, it was just thick black on the paint there, and then just adding highlights. But it didn't really pop until I added the shadow. Then I got a little freaked out. I had to kind of back away. Like I'd close my eyes. If you half close your eyes, it just feels like this Emperor Scorpion is coming over to you. Then I had this candle type crown to put on this skull from a reference photo, and that was a lot of fun. And also, as I'm doing this, you'll notice that I'm just writing like crazy, and I'm getting these story ideas. So this art journal is really helping me formulate things. The trick is, when you do these, if you're going to paint over it like that, you got to make sure that you have some semblance of what you were writing. Take a picture of it sometimes before you paint, or, might save yourself some problems sometimes, and I have to figure it out. Otherwise, it's tragic. This was... So this is fun. This is based on the Queen of the Night, which is a flower, and she's kind of like a succulent type of flower, and she blooms, I think, once a year, but she gets pollinated by moths and bats. A friend of mine actually researched this and looked that up when I was talking about this, and I looked that up. And one of the moths is the Death's Head moth, and so I had to do this. I did a spin on courtship, birds and bees, that kind of thing, and pollinating, and just how cool that you have a flower called the Queen of the Night, and she attracts moths and bats to her for pollination. So, and she basically blooms in moonlight. So this was a lot of fun. I was kind of working on an Arthur Rackham motif, except I didn't use the paint as much as he does. I really used the ink for everything and just did some accents of white, which is kind of an opposite of Arthur Rackham. It almost looks like a cross between Arthur Rackham and Edward Gorey. It was really neat. I was really, really like proud of this and happy with how it turned out. Oh, this is Cerberus and Persephone. Persephone, of course, the goddess of spring, who fell in love with Hades, or some people say she did, others say she's held against her will, but she always returns there, spends most of her life with him, fends off opposing nymphs who are interested in him, so I think that she's in love with him. But this is, she's with Cerberus, who is the guard dog of Hades, who guards the gates of the underworld to keep people from getting in there and messing up the order, and to keep the ne'er-do-wells from leaving it, But I envision that sometimes Persephone tired of Hades sometimes and has to go and hang out with his dog, and she just loves his dog. And I imagine Hades gets annoyed by that. But I imagine his dog who has three heads, Cerberus, can sleep with one eye open at all times while the other heads sleep. And so there they are hanging out together. But I just love this one. The challenge was Hellhound. And I wasn't really interested in doing a Hellhound, but then I thought, what about Cerberus? And this is one of my most favorite pieces. And it's just so simple. It's just an ink wash and an ink drawing. And then this one was, there was dragon and mushrooms, and I put them together because I didn't want to just do a big dragon. And I love the idea of a little one. And really, once I started adding the blue, this thing popped. And I just absolutely loved it. Until then, I was like, where is this going? Do I even like it? But now it just makes me smile. I think it's just a wonderful thing. I mean, can you imagine this on your wall? You'd just be so happy whenever you see it. It's great. And then we have Sleepy Hollow. I love this one. The challenge was Goblin. And then there was another challenge for Pumpkin. And I think there was one more challenge. I could be wrong. But I realized because I was doing a live stream reading of Sleepy Hollow, Washington Irving pretty much refers to the Headless Horseman as a goblin as much as he refers to as a Headless Horseman. Almost as much, at least. And he's basically the first American goblin. So it was perfect. I really wanted to do a painting of the Headless Horseman. And I was like, hey, let's do it in here. And this is probably my favorite piece of the whole challenge. I just absolutely loved it. And it just kind of surprised me the way I got the light, the way the pumpkin turned out. It was just wonderful. So yeah, that is the Headless Horseman. And I try to live stream Sleepy Hollow every year. So hopefully I see you on that. Yeah, this was very gratifying. I've always wanted to do this, so it was kind of a little bit of a dream come true. I'm sure there'll be others that I do, but absolutely just wonderful. And let's see, I've got two more. So you remember that one, the yokai, which I'll try to get there really quick. This one, it turned into a 3-part story. So this was part 1. The key that is in that still life, that is in that yokai one, started to become a big part of the story. And so I did this. It's a big moment where this key is handed off from one character to another, and that starts a whole chain of events. You have to read the story. And then part 2, this is pretty intense, and the story took me to a lot of interesting places, which I love about ghost stories, and they can bring matters of the flesh and moments between two lovers, and it just makes things feel precarious and very human and carnal and sensual. And this was a lot of fun. Art journal should be anything you want to do. It should be anything you want. And I use this as an example. Art, love, and storytelling. I mean, I was really kind of getting the way the muscles are tensing up, the way she's like kind of pressed against his skin there. So you're feeling what they're feeling. I was really going into the gestures here. How can I tell this story? That her hair everywhere and everything. And that was part 2. Part 3 was the first one, the yokai with that cat spirit. But it's quite a story. You should check it out. Again, check out the Substack. And then this is the last one right now. This was for Krampus. So this was on December 5th. And I told a story about a wreath that I made when I was very young, and that it was a disaster that was kind of inspired by this. I like this wreath. But the one that I made that was just a real disappointment for me kind of turned into a weird different post about Krampus. So similar to how the art journal can take you places you didn't expect, so can your long form writing, as is demonstrated on my Substack. All right, well, anyway, this was quite an epic video, there is a bit left to go here. What'll these be like? We will see one day. So yeah, that's that. Fun times. Thanks for being here. And thank you for taking that journey with me. Much appreciated, and I hope that maybe you got some value from that, or I don't know, maybe even learned something. Maybe you got inspired. I mean, that would be truly valuable. But let me know what you think in the comments. A lot of these pieces have stories where either inspiring them or that they inspired, those stories are getting further developed to go onto my Substack. So it's a lot of fun to see where they go. A lot of times it'll just be some little image. I think it's going to be this little story, then it turns into something big. Sometimes I need to make more images to illustrate that tale. It's really cool what just sitting down and painting and letting your imagination take you places will do and where you'll go. And if you're interested in seeing the other side of this result, you should absolutely check out my Substack. Link is in the description. And you should just subscribe to Substack if you're not. The reason is because of all the social media, Substack encourages us to get back to reading. Long form reading. There's really something for everybody there. It is wonderful to unwind and just read some great writing. There's tons of great writing on Substack because any of us who go on there know that we've got to compete with the other writers. So it makes some of us better than we were before. And I think that the reader, and I'm talking about myself too, because I also go on there to read a lot, but the reader is a big winner on Substack. It's fantastic. So had to, every now and then, I really got to give love to what they're doing on Substack because I just, it's wonderful what they have brought to the social media sphere. If you ever wondered where all those wonderful bloggers who had a wonderful point of view went, I think the blogosphere has really been going over to Substack, and it's just beautiful to see. I love it. Also, hit the like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't. Also, there's the Facebook, which has a nice, fun community, my Ghost in the Gaslight Facebook. All that's in the description. And if you want to get any Ghost in the Gaslight swag, you should go to my store, get yourself a mug, get one of my awesome zip hoodies or sweatshirts or pillows. They're beautiful pillows. Okay, well, anyways, thank you so much, and I will see you on the next one. Take care, you beautiful, haunted romantics. If you find a fairy cow, and you can basically be blessed with unlimited milk, and you have to don't go looking for them because I don't quite remember the parameters where you can anger the fairy folk. So, don't go looking for it.